Thank you so much, Dr. David Oginde, for such a profound message on leading in times of crisis. I'm sure you've picked up something. And so we want to go into a panel, and I'll be inviting two gentlemen, one being Bishop David Oginde, and a good friend who I'll be introducing. For those who've just joined in, let me quickly give you a snapshot of Bishop David Oginde's profile. David Oginde is a thought leader in matters governance and leadership, with a passion for developing value-based high-impact leaders for the 21st century. He's a founder and the team leader of the ChristianLeaders. Dr. David Oginde is involved in leadership, coaching, training, and consultancy. He has led several workshops and seminars for corporates, government, and nonprofit institutions on various aspects of leadership, both nationally and internationally. Dr. Oginde has a vast leadership experience, having served as the presiding bishop of Christ is the Answer Ministries, where he offered leadership at various levels for over 24 years. He served as the chancellor of the PSC, or for those who want the full one, Pan-African Christian University, for 10 years. He's also served and led other institutions, boards, and government panels. He's a council chair for Mama Ngina University. Dr. Oginde holds a PhD in organizational leadership from Regent University from the United States of America, a master's in leadership from the Pan-African Christian University, and a Bachelor of Architecture from the University of Nairobi. He's a certified professional mediator. He also published several books and articles in various leadership journals. He's an adjunct lecturer in PhD in organizational leadership at the Pan-African Christian University. Thank you. Welcome, Bishop. Our second panelist is George Weshuri, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Optiven, a leading brand in the region, and has several flourishing strategic business units, or otherwise called SBUs, that include Optiven Real Estate, Optiven Construction, Optiven Homes, and Optiven Water. The firm has also gained a foothold into the hospitality industry with a GMC place in Kitengela and 2 food franchises that include Eagle Peak Spa and Panarotis. All these are in Nairobi. Under his stewardship, the firm has continued to grow exponentially. Inspired by a drive to transform the society economically and socially, Optiven aims at creating over 30,000 direct employees by the year 2030. George has indefatigably been at the forefront of empowering Kenyans and Africans in diaspora, especially to invest in the real estate. Having started over 15 different businesses, which ended up folding, he has continued to prudently steward Optiven, a firm that has so far received numerous accolades, both locally and internationally. Under his watch, Optiven has singled out as one of the companies to inspire Africa in 2019 by the London Stock Exchange. The firm has also scooped numerous awards that includes the Best Employer in East Africa in 2019 by East Africa Best Employer Brand Awards, and the Most Preferred and Flexible Payment Land Agent by Financial Inclusion Awards 2019. Optiven was also the overall winner of the Top 100 Mid-Sized Companies Survey 2014-2015 by KPMG and Nation Media Group. The firm also scooped the Best Company in Customer Orientation and Marketing in Kenya, Koya Awards 2015. George has won several awards across the globe, including the African Business Personality Award 2018 by the Voice Achievers Award Netherlands, Best Entrepreneur in Africa 2017 by Diaspora Entertainment Awards and Recognition, DIA Awards 2017, Best and Most Innovative Entrepreneur, Business and Entrepreneurship Mashujaa Awards 2015, USA, amongst others. This pace-setting innovator and entrepreneur holds a master's in business administration from the University of Nairobi and a Bachelor of Commerce Marketing option, and is a certified public accountant, CPA K. He's also a passionate philanthropist and the chairman and trustee of one of the most vibrant foundations in the region, Optiven Foundation. He's also a motivational speaker, a lecturer, and serves as a church leader. To top it up, George is also a family man and a celebrated author of the best-selling Soaring Like an Eagle and Unleash Your Full Potential. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome these two great men onto the podium as we just have a conversation on how to survive difficult times. Lessons learned. Welcome, gentlemen. I'd like to start with you, Mr. George Weshuri. Tell us a little, what was your experience as an individual, and then very briefly as an organization?
Wow, thank you, Kingston and Bishop, and all those who are watching us online. Yes, COVID was one of the toughest tests of leadership, and especially for me as a person. You know, I remember we had 400 employees, and every organization was closing down. And I remember this one time that one of my staff came coughing, and everybody ran away. And I saw some people coming to me and say, "Hey, Bwana George, we need now to go home and work from home." And of course, that evening, we closed the real estate. So we all went home. So when I went home, I had a headache because I have loans to pay, salaries to pay, and many other liabilities. As if that was not enough, we have a big franchise in Kitengela for family entertainment centers, GMC. The following day, I went there. They said, "We also want to go home. We don't want to stay here with COVID." 100 employees. We closed GMC, they went home. I went back home, I had a headache. The third day, we had another couple of people at the spa. They also said, "We are closing down." Actually, the government closed down. 70 employees went home. I went back home, I had a headache. And for 5 days, as the bishop was saying, I said, I think now as a leader, the only thing I can do is to pray. Pray for these people. Pray for the COVID to be managed. And also pray for the government, because I could see the government was equally frustrated. And also ask God to give us life, because I think during COVID, the most important thing was life. And after a couple of days, we had an idea and said, wait a minute, everybody now is at home. So that's the time the Zoom was coming up. So we just had an idea of starting a Zoom to encourage these people. You know, speak to them, talk to them. And to cut the long story short, we continued working through online and on Zoom. We even hired 40 more people on Zoom during COVID. You know, in that time, nobody's encouraging you. It's you to encourage yourself as a leader. But I discovered that having experienced other challenges in life, you know, losing businesses, being auctioned, and all that, I always know that when you talk to our Father, who is God himself, there is always a comfort. And I have experiences of what God can do, even the time you are at the valley. It's the same God who picks you up to go to the mountain. So that's the time I remembered, this thing can only be managed by God himself, because he is able. And he did it. He did it. Yes.
Thank you. Now to you, Bishop. At that point, you're leading a big church with several branches in several countries, a university, hospitality industry, and maybe you'll tell us the rest of them. How did you get through? George had 3 headaches. What happened to you as COVID hit?
I had 6. It's actually very interesting that I actually didn't have a headache. because when COVID started, I think the most scary time for me was the announcement that COVID had been detected in Morocco. I think that was the first announcement for Africa. And having seen what had happened in Italy, in the United States of America, in China, big nations, I knew we were done. So when I heard it was in Morocco, I knew that it's now going to come down. And I remember Melinda Gates saying that we are going to die like flies. So I just thought, this thing has come, and this is our time. So prepare to meet your maker. But of course, as a leader, you have to be resilient and provide leadership in that situation. So we got together with our pastoral team and thought, what do we do in this situation? And I remember when the government announced that the first case of COVID has been detected in Kenya, it was panic across the country, because I think people believe that this is now it. We are gone. We are done for. So the first thing we did was to, exactly what I said, reassess our situation, find out where are we at, what can we do, how do we manage this situation. And in our meeting of our overseers, we decided we are going to close church. This time the government had not yet decided that church was going to be closed, but we decided ourselves we are going to close church, and we are going to take church online. So I remember we called a press conference at Valley Road and made that announcement that to our members that from this Sunday, we are not going to be meeting, but we are going to turn to Hope FM and Hope TV, which by God's grace we already had, to be our platforms for running church. And many people are not very happy, but a number of people thought that was a very good idea. Actually, it's like 3-4 days later, the government closed everything. So we were in the spirit when this thing happened. The reason that I would say I did not have headache, not because we didn't have a problem, but because the announcement was made here in March. But in January, I was speaking in Addis Ababa. And I would say almost prophetically, because I had been asked to speak on globalization and the church. And I talked about a time is coming, and I told the congregation, the crowd that was there, it was a leadership conference. And I told them, a time is coming, I may not be around myself, but a time is coming when church as we know it will not happen. And unless the church prepares itself to use technology to be able to do what God has called us to do, we may find ourselves irrelevant. And I told them, we have a church in Valley Road in Nairobi that we gathered over 10,000 people every week, every Sunday. I can see a time when that building will be empty and there will be no people gathering there. And unless we get to the platform of media, technology, we may not get there. So we developed the CITAM Church Online as a church that is online. And so when this announcement was made, we decided, this is where we're going. And we organized ourselves quickly and started reaching out to people. That was, by God's grace, what really helped us. Of course, there was the whole issue, like he's saying, about workers. What do you do with them? We have over 600 workers at that time, staff, pastors and others. We have teachers in our schools. We have the people working in the media industry. We have people who are working in hospitality, and then, of course, those who are working in church. So what do you do with these people? That was our biggest challenge.
How did you arrive at that? You say God led you, but even as you said
you want
earlier,
it more practical.
we'll come back to that. Let's come back to George. Now you've come, you have moved online, you're beginning to hire. What was precipitating all this? What were you learning out of what was going on that led you to decide to hire when other people were firing?
What we did is a change of mindset. As a leader, you have to think before anybody else. And we formed a small committee of brainstorming. And we used to meet, of course, with mask, and we are discussing what do we do. An idea came, why can't we keep encouraging these people at home? We keep inspiring them, mentoring them, talking to them, asking them how are they doing. We also formed a prayer kind of a group, whereby if somebody got sick, because he had people who were sick, we were praying for them by their names and calling them. How are you doing? Are you taking medicine? Of course, there were so many prescriptions of medicine. And we were researching these types of medicine. I remember somebody brought to me some kind of leaves from my village that you boil them and you inhale. And I remember sending them to one of my employees. And we were researching all these kind of things. And we kept encouraging each and every single person, even those who were sick. By the grace of God, we did not lose anyone. By the power of prayers, we prayed for them. And we said, now we are, because I remember every day on Zoom meeting, we were starting with the prayers. Of course, I looked our pastor to be praying for these particular people. And after prayers, what next? We now started kind of encouraging these people, like mentoring them. And then we graduated to talking about our properties and how we can loop in our customers. So an idea came. We told the customers, you can come and see your properties, drive yourself. And then we now started business slowly by slowly. And people are getting bored staying at home. So they were coming to see our projects. And I remember one day we could even host 20 people coming with their families to see their properties. And then the business just picked. And then we said, wait a minute, we added more people. We bought more projects. That time the central bank said, everybody with a loan, there is a waiver for paying anything for 2 years. I said, hey, 2 years without paying your loans. I think that was the best thing that happened. And that time people were still paying, because as we have a very huge diaspora presence, and we had money in our account. So we even bought more properties, and more properties means hiring more people. And between COVID and now, I think now we are more by over 200 new permanent employees by the grace of God. Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it? Wow. Have you ever heard of driving land buying? We know you go for chips, driving, and other things. But this is a situation, innovation kicked in, and you hired more people. Let's come back to Bishop. Now you have sent your teams home, and everybody is getting into a panic out there. They're looking to church. They're struggling. COVID is hitting. The government is shutting down. How did you deal with that? The church, now the congregation and others were looking to church, but you have already sent the ministers home.
Like I said, church is an interesting place. It's not like Optiven. We trust in Optiven making money,
yes,
and then bringing to us.
Yes.
A tenth of whatever they make. They bring to us. Yeah. So when Optiven is not making money, yes, you can be sure we are not making money. That is the nature of church. So that was our first crisis, that people are now not coming to church,
and therefore they may not be able to give. How then do you sustain all these people who are serving together with you in different sectors? But we took a step of faith and said we are not going to send anybody home in terms of laying people off. But we met with all the staff and said we are going to start by reducing our salaries by 75%. And we will monitor. By that time, we thought that maybe another 4 or 5 months, we bounce back. So we calculated that the month 1 will do 75, month 2 will do 50, month 3 we will do 25, month 4 we will of course be back in business. We didn't know it was going to last years. So, but everybody committed to that. And that really helped to reduce the burden and the struggle of finances, because that is one of the most difficult things. So people agreed that they can reduce their salary, they can take less salary, but they are still in employment. At least they have something, like we say, to put food on the table. And that really reduced a lot of burden that would come upon a leader. The second thing that happened is the online platform for church ministry. We didn't realize just how much that would impact the country and other churches, because there are a number of churches who did not have these platforms, the radio, the TV. We tried, first of all, to go to some of the national TVs and to just buy space there. It was so expensive that it was not viable. So we just said, we are not going to go there. This is the time to build our own stations. And that really was a big advantage. What surprised us is that when we started the online, now not radio and TV, just the online, the first Sunday, we had over 600,000 people who were attending our church online. That is more than 10 times the number of people we normally reach. By the following Sunday, we had gone to over 1.something million people that were attending our church online. And the numbers just kept going up. But what was also very interesting, as because we also engaged a lot on social media, Facebook, Twitter, we were very present. We mobilized our people to be there to communicate hope through, not Hope FM, but communicate hope for the people, because people are in a very desperate situation. And those also picked up. What surprised us is the kind of people who also engaged on that platform, on this online platform. People that you would never see in church. You know, some people we know in Kenya who you know this person doesn't go to church, doesn't care about church. But they were attending and being very active about it. And we saw our offerings going up. Like Weshuri's, I think because he was getting his tithe, he was bringing it to church. And so actually, within a very, not very short, but a relatively short time, we were able to begin to get our staff back to normal, because people were committed to giving and supporting this platform. Even people from other churches where they did not have that platform, they found a place there. That's why our numbers were many. Of course, that tapered down with time as more churches got into radio and TV and YouTube and Facebook and so on. But for us, I think it provided us a great opportunity to reach so many more people in that COVID season, that we decided that actually the church online would become a permanent platform for engaging people. And it has continued even up to this time. The numbers have gone down in terms of attendance, but it is still a very viable place where we have been able to reach many, many more people. Our university, we were among the first people to start full online courses in the country. Not long distance, full programs that you can take a degree and complete. So when I was chair of the council and chancellor, we were thinking of, suppose we become the fully fledged online university. And many of our lecturers and, and team there were like, no, that can't happen. There are people have to meet physically. Education has to be physical. You need that touch with the students and so on. When COVID came, of course, schools were closed, universities were closed. There was no going. But because we already had that platform, again, it really helped us to quickly organize ourselves to now provide all our programs online. And it became so effective that now most of our programs are actually online. You don't have to physically go to class. We were recently very pleasantly surprised, and this is where the thing of recalibrating, refocusing your vision really becomes very important. That one of the European countries wanted to, or rather was sponsoring online platform studies for universities in East Africa. And they were looking for a university that has done this well, that can then train other universities. So when this advertisement went out, calling out to universities, we are a very small university. But we thought, well, we have done this thing, why don't we try? We didn't know that it would be even considered. To our surprise, we won that tender. Wow. And now we were given that tender to go and that contract to go and train universities in East Africa, public and private, on how to do online classes in an effective way.
That's amazing. I mean, just listening to you.
Yeah.
Many nuggets there. The ability to adapt quickly. Innovation came in.
Yes.
I mean, now the university moves away from just being a small university in person to a big worldwide global university that is even training others. And your tithes and offerings went up, of course, because of George. But I'm coming back to you, and I hope you're seeing this whole process of lessons that we are learning even in times of crisis. We almost want to say we need crisis all the time, but let me not say that. George, as we come to just the end, I'd like you to summarize for us. You have told us about how you grew your numbers, how you went online, how you tried new things, and of course you got a bigger market from the diaspora. You bought more, and because the government had given them a reprieve, they could buy. What are the lessons as you as an individual, as a leader, as we summarize? How can you summarize? What are your key lessons, maybe 2 or 3, that you've stayed with even today, that you'd like to share with the rest of us, lessons that in this crisis, you as a leader, you learned 2 important or 3 important lessons that you'd like to leave with them?
Thank you, Kingston. One of the things that I have learned is that even as we do business and as business prosper, like the way Optiven has prospered and thrived, it is always important to remember the power of God, to remember that the resources that we as leaders, as entrepreneurs, we are managing, they are not our resources. We are a channel of these resources. We are taking care, we are custodians, we are stewards. And once we realize that, regardless of the magnitude of the growth of organization, you are aware that you are a custodian. And if you are a custodian, there are some expectations that God expects you to do. I was sharing with one of my friends, Dr. here, that what we do as Optiven, the 5% of the money God has given us, we pick that particular money, take it to the foundation to support the orphans, the less fortunate, to support the senior citizens, to support the girls in semi-arid areas. And now the foundation has become bigger, and it's also attracting other people to support. This year we had a huge number of people wanting a scholarship. And one of the person in UK, Manchester, saw our video and says, I want to pick 40 students to sponsor them in full. So give me the list of deserving students. We said, look at it. We started this 8 years ago, and somebody now is coming. So remember, we use these resources to do God's work. Other than the foundation, we are also very intentional to support church work. A good example is Hope FM. We did I think 3 years contract to support this Christian mission and other Christian stations. We support International Leadership University. We support Focus because we know hii pesa siyo yetu. This money has got the owner. And if you don't use this money properly, God is not short of people, of entrepreneurs. Oh, yes. God can pick another entrepreneur, and that money goes to that other particular entrepreneur. So we don't do anybody's favor by supporting the communities. Lesson number 2 I've learned in business and entrepreneurship, having failed so many times. Lesson number 2, always value people. Right now I'm here, I'm not getting calls. But there are people who are sharper, who are better than George Weshuri. Running Optiven finances, running Optiven marketing, social media, and every time as a leader, you value these people. You respect them. You become part and parcel of them. Open door policy. The organization will just grow. Lesson number 3 is what I picked from the late Bob Corribo. He was asked one time, how come this organization is making 100 billion? And then he said 3 things. Number 1, partnership. Number 2, innovation. Number 3, giving. We have learned that as a leader, you must keep thinking differently. Don't think the way the industry is thinking. Right now at Optiven, we are saying people dance for happiness. One of the media team asked me, what's the correlation between dancing and the real estate? And you know the story. It's out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. What a profound way of just ending what you have said. So before we totally wrap this up, Bishop, what about you as a leader? I'm sure you have many lessons, but give us 3 that you want to share. You as a leader, you've learned. George has given us his, and we have learned that at the end of everything, you must be dancing.
Thank you very much. One is that crises are opportunities for innovation. When I was a student of architecture many years ago, I still remember one thing that our lecturer told us right in first year. We used to think that if you have a flat piece of land, which is very big, as a designer, it is very nice. You can design a very nice building on that. But he told us that a big flat piece of land is the most difficult to be creative on. When you have a very difficult piece of land with rocks and slopes and valleys and things, then your creative juices, as he called it, kick in. Because you have to think, how can I make use of this space to create something that is good? And I remember he showed us one of the most celebrated designs of houses is called the Falling Water House, where this person had a piece of land that was divided with a gorge. His land was across, so part of it was this side, the other side was another side, a small piece of land, and then there was a deep gorge with a waterfall on it. So invited this architect. They used to go there for picnicking with his family. And they would just go and sit by and relax and hear the sound of the waterfall. So he went there with this architect and he said, is there anything that we can do here? The guy was so excited. This is very good. And he said, can you create something here? And so Frank Lloyd Wright, who was one of the celebrated architects of the time, designed a building, a house, which spanned across the waterfall with a glass floor, so that when you're in a sitting room, you can see the waterfall down there. There was no wall, no solid walls around the house. It was all glass, so you could see this forest and hear the birds and so on. The thing was such a masterpiece that it became one of the world's wonders. People were going to see. In fact, the guy never lived in the house because there were so many tourists who were coming to see this house. So our lecturer was saying that difficult situations provide opportunity for creativity. So when you are in a crisis, sit back and think, what can we do in this situation? And for me, that was a big lesson. And I saw it happen during COVID-19 because it gave us as a church opportunity to be creative, get into a space where we have not been before, do church in a different way, do university in a different way. And even school, we started, even before the government opened up, we started tuition. Online tuition in our schools, and there are many children who are joining in even from other schools. So crises are opportunities for creativity. Instead of crying like these people and stoning others, that's what these over hundreds of people, all they could think is that we have to stone David. But David was thinking, what do I do? And he called Abiathar and said, let's pursue. And was able to. The second is what our brother George has said. Remember God. In crisis, God is there. I know there may be some people who are watching us who don't believe in God. But whether you believe in God or not, there is God. And if you call to him in times of crisis, he will show you things that you never knew existed or were even possible. And it will get you to places that you never knew. The third lesson that I would say is that in times of crisis, learn to be calm. When we're in a state of panic, you can't think. Many of us, when we find ourselves in crisis, it is panic, it's pacing up and down, it's going here and there, it's kicking people, breaking windows and all kinds of things. You cannot think. Sit down, be calm, listen, and you'll be amazed at how ideas then begin to come into your mind of things that can be done, of possibilities, including dancing in the real estate.
Wow. I'm sure you guys have been really enriched by these two gentlemen. I would love just to sit here and listen. I'm sure there are many more nuggets. And we're going to be providing the ability to reach them out and just find out what is Optiven doing, what is the Catholic doing, and reach out, lean in, and learn a little more from them. Thank you very much, gentlemen. God bless you, and thank you for giving us your time here. Asante sana. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Asante.
Thank you.